And that's why when you look at statistical models, they are data driven. And now, what kind of data? It starts from survey or cross-sectional data. You can work on that. You can as well work on retrospective data that have been collected in the past. And then you can also work on prospective data in terms of when you are following maybe a particular cohort on a long-term basis. Maybe like a group of people that are smoking, and you want to check whether they will, how many of them will end up having lung cancer. Now you can also collect that kind of data, which is so which you can also work on. Another type of data you can look at is clinical trials. Now where drug would have been tested um, using rabbit using animals, and then if you have tested it, because for you to bring out any drug for anyone, it must have been tested in some certain animals that share the same alimentary canal with human, so or physiology with human. And then you find out that that drug will not kill, it will not kill human being. Yeah, and then it is going to be effective. Can you hear me now? Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, can hear you, sir.
Okay, so I was saying that um now statistical model are data driven. Now without data you can't really carry out successful analysis you cannot, it will just only be a theoretical work which is not really the focus of statistical models. And I was saying that what kind of data? I started with survey or cross-sectional data that you can collect at an instant of time. Those are survey or cross-sectional data. And then you have retrospective data of past events, maybe past sales, past stock, and then or past malaria incidents. I mean, maybe from 2000 till date. Or and then you can also use data prospective in terms of you put people in a cohort and you want to look at maybe the number of people that are smoking, how many of them will end up having lung cancer. So you start this work now, but you are collecting the data gradually, and then maybe it may be 3 years or 4 years depending on what you want to see. Now another data is clinical trial data. It's also another kind of data you can work on for a statistical model. Now for statistical model we explore correlation and understand the trends and patterns in data. Now, so you know, um, association does not imply causation. Now, correlation has to do with association, and and regression has to do with relationship. The degree of those relationship is what we mean by regression. And then time series analysis is another tool to identify seasonal pattern and also to forecast. It is used for statistical model are used for nowcasting. You want to know what's going to happen maybe in the next few days, and then forecasting to predict the current epidemiology and where it might be in the next few weeks. And then statistical models can also be used to estimate the efficacy and effectiveness of current treatments, like I was saying on clinical trials. Now you want to check the the efficacy or effectiveness of a drug and prevention measures. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Now another model is dynamic or mathematical models. Now in dynamic or mathematical model, what do? We simulate processes. We carry out simulation. Simulation is not the same thing as parameter estimation. You simulate just to mimic the system, to mimic and to see the pattern of that system. And this has to be done within a particular specific your choice of time period. And under that, mainly under dynamic or mathematical model, we have deterministic. When you talk about deterministic, you are looking at a situation whereby you put everything about the population is on you are looking at the events on an average, what happen on average. So deterministic model describe what happen on average in the population. So in this model, the input parameters, that is the rate of disease onset or the rate at which people recover, and then they are all fixed. They are not random, they are fixed. So and therefore the model prediction, such as number of cases which will be seen over time, are predetermined. So you can predetermine the number of cases over time for deterministic models. So this describe what happens on average in a population. Now for stochastic, so in other words, no randomness is involved for deterministic model. And under deterministic models, we have different kind of models, like starting from continuous time, ordinary differential equation model, discrete models. We have fractional differentiation, fractional differential equation FDE. We have delayed differential. We have integral differential equation. We have different kinds of deterministic model that describe what happens on average in a population. Now, for stochastic model, now is for in a stochastic model, you find out that you allow the number of individuals who move between compartments to vary by chance. As people move from one compartment to the other, they vary by chance. And then, for example, the rate at which people are infected or infectious individuals recover from disease may vary randomly. The rate at which people are infected or infectious, maybe like transmission rates, can vary randomly. And then um, um, they explore outcomes. For stochastic model, they explore outcomes, obtain distribution of the outcomes. Randomness is also important for stochastic models. Now, one other thing about stochastic model is that it's usually appealing for decision making. Now, for example, um, if sometimes you can have the incidence of an infection of individuals, um, is always between certain variations. So it's not always a fixed thing like deterministic models. And randomness is important. Now we also have meta population or network. So all of these can either be meta population stochastic or meta population deterministic. Network also. And then individual or agent based model is stochastic based. Next. Now district models use whole numbers, rates, like when you say number of so rates converted to probabilities, and then possibility of disease eradication. Next. Next slide. Now stochastic models, you can look at it. No, stochastic model, they explore outcomes, obtain a distribution of the outcomes, now you find out that this is um, um, number of infected over some number of days. And then if you look at it, like if you take a number of if you look at as at day, maybe day 5, you find out that if you look at it, the number of people that have been infected between on as at day 5, if you look at it from here, you see that they are not just fixed, they are within a particular variation. They vary from one number to the other. So and the maximum will be around 100 thereabout, and then the minimum should be around 0. So you find out that they vary. And so that's one thing about stochastic models. Next, you also have metapopulation and network models. The concept of metapopulation does not originate in epidemiology but in ecology. A metapopulation is a group of population of the same species that live in spatially isolated areas but interact on some level. Now, metapopulation occur when different population live in fragmented habitats but are connected through migration. Like somebody living in Nasarawa but working in Abuja. So you find out that mosquito can bite him in Nasarawa, and then he will come to Abuja during the day and fall sick. So he commutes between Abuja and Nasarawa every day for livelihood, and then you find out that such person get infected through, I mean, in the course of movement, mobility. So this kind of model help us to look at questions around where do people sleep at night, what kind of job do they do, where do they, I mean, how do they commute between one location or the other. These are some of the, we also find it among people who are in markets. They come to present market in maybe in Oyekiti. There's a market in Olupeju. They are not living in Olupeju, but once there is market day, they come there. And then they have been involved in a particular contact with an infected person in the location they were coming from. And they came to the market and got sick. So in the course of commuting, you find out that, and then so for this kind of model, you want to also capture mobility from one geographical location to another. So it's a group of population of the same species that live in spatially isolated areas but interact on some level. So you find out that it has to do with location, spatial, and also have to do with movement of people from one place to the other. So this metapopulation occur when different population live in fragmented habitat that are connected through migration. Next slide. So metapopulation models, epidemic models, consist of n patches. The population of each patch is what is happening now? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear now, sir.
Okay. So network model explicitly track the network of contacts between individuals. Infection can only occur between infected individual and a subset of the total population with which they are in contact with. So you find out that like this has to do with, it has to do with the network of people you are in contact with. So you begin to track people based on their networks, the people they have contact with at certain time or the other. So and then um, with that you are able to track a particular disease, just like somebody who was traveling from Italy to Nigeria the other time, and then they found out that he had COVID, and they had to track the network of people in the plane, from the air hostess to the pilot to each passengers in the aircraft, so that the disease will not it can be curtailed. Next slide. Now, network models exclusively represent the contact structure of a population, which is more realistic than the homogeneous mixing assumption of classic compartmental models. Individuals are represented as nodes and potentially disease transmitting contacts and edges. Network types: random graphs, small world networks, scale free networks. Now, for random graphs, you find out that this is described by a low clustering coefficient and short average path length. Now, small world networks display, so for random graphs, you find out that this may have some kind of bias, because you find out that this is characterized by a low clustering coefficient and short average path length. So there is no particular specific way of getting that network. It can start anyhow. The main thing is that you are picking the contacts of networks that people has mixed with. Now, small world networks display high clustering but maintain short path lengths. So the length between one network to the other are shorter. So reflecting how a few long range connections can speed up global spread. Like hello, am I safe? What's going on now? I'm already firing and you're not hearing me. Scale free networks. Can you hear now? Scale free networks. This feature, yes, okay, thank you. This feature, a few highly connected individuals like hubs, which can dramatically influence disease spread. So you find out that for this, together, just like the way you people are in that small hub there, this small hub where PhDs and masters are. If somebody has COVID and begin to cough, they are not careful, a lot of people can catch it. Due to their complexity, simulation network models are typically studied using computer simulations that track the disease status of each individual agent over a period of time. Next slide. Then you have individual based or agent based model. So this track what happens to each individual in the population, each individual, not just population level. This is individual based, not population based. So what happens to each individual So this one allow chance to be in focus. That is, they allow stochasticity, randomness, to determine whether or not they become infected and infectious at each time step. So now this is based on stochastic, individual base. The choice of whether they become infected and infectious has to do with randomness. Each agent or important group assign a compartment. So you can start this kind of model with maybe looking at 200 individual in the population. So you are going to model each individual in the population. So which means that your model is going to be very, very large. That you cannot use your small computer to handle. It's going to be HPC, high performance computing. Next slide. So the number of compartments, yeah, the slide before, you are moving fast. The slide before this one, the number of compartments can increase exponentially. Now you find out that the number of compartments for this one, if you have 200 million people, 200,000, 200 million people, you know what that means. So you are going to capture each person in that population, whether the person is infected or infectious. Each agent has a set of attributes, e.g. vaccination status. So you look at each of the individual in the model and check their, maybe if it is for malaria now, you check their vaccination status, and you also include it in the model. At the end of the day, you have millions of compartments, millions, that you are going to begin to work on. Now rules are set for how agents interact. So you are going to do that based on the information you have, maybe the local context. Next. Hear me? Next slide. Then you have health economic models. They are used for to use primarily to explore the potential costs, like cost benefit analysis, cost effectiveness of health interventions. Now these are tools that are used to be able to advise the policymakers how much. I have told you that vaccination is the best that will bring that will that will reduce the number of cases and also the number of deaths for this particular disease. So how do we go about it? So we need to check how much is it going to cost us if you are going for vaccination. If you are going for other control measure, how much will it cost us? And the reason why we're asking that is that we want to know whether vaccination will be a better option and something to put our money into going forward. Next slide. So you have a kind of hierarchy in terms of statistical models. So we basically start from univariate linear model. These are simple model of one variable, and we go to multivariate linear, which has more than one variable and are also linear. Then we have the generalized linear. Is that increasing realism implies decreasing tractability. So it means that as the model is becoming more realistic, then it become more difficult and more complex to track them. So these are some of the limitations around any of these ones you may want to use. Next slide. Now we also see here the dynamic models, which start from deterministic models, which can looking at the degree of their complexity from the simpler one to more complex ones. And then we have meta population and slash network. So where the one we have or have already described the other time. So you find out that as they are becoming more complex and increasing realism, so you find out that there is decrease in the attractability. Next slide. So the most complex one there is the agent based model. Now how good is my model? How good is my model? Your model can be only be good if they satisfy the following condition: if they are parsimonious, that is to available data. Then if we can balance conformity to data and parsimony. And then to do that, you have we balance conformity to data and parsimony, and then easily generalizable, validate the model and make prediction. So how do you validate the model? We do a what we call, there are two types of validation. You can do validation via performance metrics, MAE, MAPE, and all of that, where you look at their percentage of accuracy. And then you can also do cross validation, and that one is very important because for you to predict, you need to know whether your model actually capture what is going on in the real world or out of sample data. Yes, next slide. Then limitations and a good model. Limitations: models present a simulation of reality. The chance events of infectious disease transmission hinder perfect transmission. Chance events of infectious disease transmission hinder perfect prediction, because I was saying the other time that there are a lot of variation around some of this rate of infection or disease transmission rates, and this hinder perfect prediction. So the transmission rate is highly influenced by a lot of variations, and that's why you cannot even use a normal cases data to fit, because that's just a counting, it's a counting of cases. So a good model is suited for its purpose: simple as possible but not so balance accuracy, and it's also parameterizable for available data. Those are the major three major characteristics of a good model. Next slide. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now, Temidayo? All right. How can model help us? By comparing different scenarios, mathematical model help decision maker choose strategies that can, for example, save lives. So in the course of carrying out your model, you test some assumptions based on the scenario, and some of these assumptions can give suggestions on what can save the life of people or use resources more efficiently. Now we are going to see, I mean, as shown in the figure 2, where a model is fit to a historical time series of cases. Models can show what might happen if certain decisions in health programs are made. So they have shown what might happen if certain decisions in health program are made. If you make wrong decision, it's going to affect people, a lot of people. So such as introducing a new vaccine or switching the type of vaccine, like e.g. the live oral polio vaccine to the inactivated polio vaccine. And then we also have in different country contexts. So models can show what might happen if certain decisions in health programs are made, such as introducing new vaccine or switching the type of vaccine. The like the live the e.g. the live oral polio vaccine to be inactivated polio vaccine. Figure 2 shows two different scenarios: a scenario in which the vaccine is introduced and a baseline scenario in which no vaccine is introduced. The model predicts outcomes such as how many people will be protected from illness or how much a program might cost under certain conditions. Assumptions. This is especially useful for vaccine policy decision because models allow comparison of different program options using existing data without the need for large, often impractical and expensive real-world trials. Next slide. Now you look at this. Now this showing a mathematical model fit. A mathematical model fit to historic time series reported and estimated cases with a baseline scenario and a vaccination introduction scenario. If you look at this curve, you see the number of reported cases, and then you also see estimated number of historical cases. So the number of reported cases are in blue, the estimated number of historical cases are in green. So we talk about that's a retrospective study, and then you look at the prediction. So you see the baseline, which is the counterfactual, which is this one, and then the introduction of scenario. You look at this is a purple, it's going down. The baseline, you look at it, it's not going down as such. But for this, it's going down, 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 down. So it means that there's a decline. When they introduce vaccine, there was a decline. So next slide. So models use data from the past, that is retrospective, just like I said, an assumption about the future, such as vaccination rates, infection rates, population size, effect size of a proposed intervention, and healthcare costs to estimate the possible outcomes of different scenarios. Examples of how model can provide critical information include estimating current and future disease burden. That's one of the ways model can provide critical information when you want to estimate current and future disease burden. For example, to understand how many people will be affected by disease without immunization. Now, predicting the impact of immunization programs. For example, to project how vaccination might reduce number of cases. So, and then comparing, you find out that, for example, to project how vaccination might reduce number of cases, and then how vaccination can reduce number of hospitalization or death. Eh? Now comparing different okay, can you hear me? Yeah, comparing different immunization strategies. Yeah, so now you can use it to compare different strategies, for example, to assess the relative benefits, the risk. Okay, thank you. The risk, and then you can also use it to get the optimal intervention strategy. Take for instance, you want to see which vaccination strategies will be the best. You can say percent, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. The best and also the cost effective. You can be the best but not the most cost effective. So using different schedules or introducing new vaccines. So comparing different immunization strategies. Next slide. Now you can also explore uncertainties and assumptions. For example, to evaluate how changes in factors such as vaccine efficacy, vaccine coverage, or pathogen transmission affect outcomes. Like unrealistic assumptions make desired outcomes unachievable. Now, if your assumption also is not realistic, it can look very bogus but not useful in terms of the local context. So supporting policy and programmatic decision, for example, to provide insights and projection to guide choices about introducing, scaling up, or optimizing immunization interventions. So these are some of the things you can use, many more mathematical model in areas you can help us exploring uncertainties and assumptions, and then supporting policy and programmatic decisions. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, mathematical models may not always be necessary or appropriate to answer a specific question. Now, to determine whether mathematical model will be used, consider the following questions. Is a mathematical model necessary, or can an alternative statistical analysis be conducted? Are data available? Those are questions you have to ask yourself. From a field study that already answered the policy question, are there enough data to be able to answer this policy question given the local context? Is there enough time to conduct a modeling analysis? Now you have to ask yourself these questions. Now there are different kind of model you can build. Now one model is like a bicycle. You know a bicycle, like that's a model. You can easily, you know, a model can appear like that because you need there are things you need to look at. You have to look at the timing also in modeling. You want to model, and then when you look at the timing you have, you cannot develop the time you are going to use to develop a bicycle or a car is not the time you are going to use to develop an aircraft. So the kind of model you want to build will determine the amount of time you have to invest in. So if it's a very highly complex model, you need time, just like an aeroplane. You cannot just sit down in your house and build an aeroplane and take it to the airport and tell people to be entering it. It's not possible. It has to go through several processes, stages, and all that. But if you want to, like ordinary cycle, like this what's it called, is it bicycle or bike, or normal shopper, nobody, you don't, that one does not need fuel. A shopper does not need fuel. That one can be built within a short time period. So there are modeling studies that are like that. There are modeling studies that are highly complex that need large number of time. So, and these are things we have to look at. So, and some of the questions we have to think about around that is to determine whether whether mathematical model or a dynamic model will be necessary, or a statistical model will be necessary. So for you to do that, you have to ask yourself, what are the data I have? What data do I have? Are data available that already answer the question, the policy question? Are there enough data to be able to answer this policy question given the local context? So for somebody who is working on practical policy driven question, you must understand your data conceptualization, because if that is not clear to you, you are going to have a lot of problem in working in this space of quantitative. Next slide. Now, mathematical models are playing increasingly important roles in forming immunization, control intervention, policies, and programmatic decisions. At the global level, modeling is a critical element by the overall. So you find out that modeling is playing important role in immunization, control intervention strategies, policies, programmatic decisions, even not just in the in I mean, currently it has gone far in the health space. In Nigeria, we need to start in the finance space, financial aspect in the financial world. We need to start looking at it critically. It's a growing thing in the health world. Now we need to start looking at it in the finance world, in the agriculture and food area. At the global level, modeling is critical elements in the overall before SAGE provides an overall policy recommendation. Model have to speak before SAGE will provide any overall policy recommendation. So model is very important. Next slide. So you have an example here: human papilloma virus immunization policy recommendation. The following are examples of HPV immunization policy recommendation. I'm going to stop on this one by the time I finish, and I will allow questions. Now, human, that's HPV. The following example are the recommendation based on model, supported by model. WHO position on one dose HPV vaccination. HPV policy recommendation in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, including one dose vaccination and vaccination of boys. That was what the modeling says. That was the policy recommendation from the model. Now, HPV vaccine introduction in Brazil, Colombia, and Poland. Next slide. So, although, is this the next one? No, you are moving fast. Yes, after this one. Yeah, so at the country level, mathematical models are increasingly used to generate predictive information for decision making. Can you move to the initial one? Dolapo, you are, I don't. Okay, the next one. Okay, so at the country level, mathematical models are increasingly used to generate predictive information for decision making. So you can develop state level, district level, country level mathematical models based on your interest and the question you want to answer. So models can be used as part of national decision making before a policy is made. So it can guide your decision before you make policy, and can also confirm the appropriateness of a decision or suggest revisions across settings, the retards and the netards. So with input from EPI, expanded program on immunization managers, review model estimates, that's regional, these are retards, regional immunization technical advisory groups, with national immunization technical advisory groups, model estimate from local and global data, and modeling studies were available. So RITACs and NITACs, with input from EPI managers, review model estimates from local and global data, and modeling studies were available. So those were, you see now, these people, they bring modeling studies from literatures, and those are the things WHO use at certain time. They bring it together, and then they use it to make decision and guide decision before policy is made. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide, sir. Now, how might the immunization 2 minutes? How might the immunization decision-making process work in a country? I'm going to stop on this slide. Although there is heterogeneity across countries and vaccines over time, the overall process is standard. Global advisory bodies such as SAGE may recommend the introduction of a new vaccine or a change in vaccination delivery or schedule. These recommendations are typically based on a combination of empirical evidence, programmatic data, and modeling results. So the recommendation they give for country level on immunization decision making is based on, they are based on combination of empirical evidence, that the experiment, and then programmatic data, modeling results. That's what they base their recommendation on. I'm going to stop here. We'll continue the next class. Thank you. If there are questions, let's know.
Thank you so much, Prof. A round of applause for Prof on that wonderful session. It was very, very insightful, learning on different types of mathematical models that we have. And one key note for me would be on ways to know if we really have a good model is when our model conforms to the available data, and also when we can validate the model via the two methods, which are performance matrix and also cross validation. And also the model is good when it can make predictions. So that was a very insightful section, and now it's time for us to take questions. I can see some hand raised. Let me confirm. So we have Mr. Peter. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for this insightful session. Your lectures have always been insightful, so this is no different. Yeah, as you are delivering the presentation, a thought just came to me because over the years, just as you earlier said, mathematics has been relegated. Its importance is not known, but with this awareness that you are bringing on board, it's becoming more real. Each application is now, is now more easily grasped more. So I think it's really needed because I'm thinking, we know how our country is and how we play our politics. It's obvious mathematics is really needed. So I'm thinking that this gospel you are preaching is needed in the political space, especially in terms of the Nigerian Governors Forum, because if they are made to understand that they can win elections, because of course politics, their language is election. They want to win the next election. So if there's a way you can get access to Nigerian Governors Forum and be able to speak to them and convince them that, hey, if you guys are able to, I mean that it made them to understand that when they incorporate modeling in their decision making, they are able to make more impact, and with that, they're able to win elections because their policies will become more impactful. I believe the gospel will sit home better with them, and they will come to incorporate modeling in their decision making. Unlike now, that for now it seems abstract. So I think the gospel will be better preached to them, and so that, because if they understand it and know that modeling can help them make more impactful decisions, it will help the country at large. So that's just the idea that came to me, sir. Thank you. Hello. Hello, Prof.
Yeah, I'm here. Yes.
Okay. It's like the line was line breaking. I've finished my comment, sir.
Yeah. So, yes, thank you for that challenge you are raising to us. So, yes, I believe that now we have started the race. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
Yes,
can hear
Prof.
you.
Okay. So we have started the race, and we will continue to push until they are able to see the importance of mathematics in terms of various application. Even if they allow us, we can use maths to forecast the person that is going to win election if you have the data. So it's very possible, and then we can guide decision before policy is made. So, but let's see as time goes on, as we continue this march, we believe that we'll begin to gain more grounds by the grace of God. Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you so much, Prof. Do we have any other question? I don't think there is any on the question. Okay. So we don't have any more questions, sir. That's just the only question for this section. So thank you so much, sir. That brings us to the end of today's section. We just want to employ everyone to please follow up through on their group project and to work together towards the deadline for December. Okay, someone is asking if there is attendance today. Yes, the attendance will be sent. Please drop your name in the WhatsApp group. Okay, I just got notified that a form will be sent now to the chat box. Please stay online and make sure that you fill the attendance before you leave the meeting. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of today's section. Thank you all for joining and for your attention all through today's section. Tomorrow's section is still on. Please do well to join as early as possible. Thank you so much
All
and have
right.
a great day.
Yeah.